Hey guys, it's Brandon, Black and Blurred, and I want to bring up an apologetic, question or issue in the problem of evil or theodicy. And I think it's a popular question that comes up. I just watched a video with Dr. Frank Turek, who's a Christian apologist, and he addressed this question. I don't have the full video here. I'm going to show some of it, but I encourage you to go and watch it and watch that discussion. Here's the question.
If the police saw a little girl getting raped and had the power to stop it, sat there and watched, and after the rapist was done, they took him to jail, would that be a moral or an immoral action by the police?
Immoral, obviously.
Why is it not immoral for God to do the exact same thing?
Now, I love the way he responds to this. It's very honest. It's very necessary the way he responds to the question. It's a very serious question. It's a very good question. Two things are behind questions like this. One of two things. One reason this question could come up, it could be completely intellectual. The person could be in a true desire to make things make sense. It's like, hey, make this make sense for me. And that's an intellectual issue. But then another reason these questions can come up is a volitional issue. It's a question of the will. It's a lack of desire for someone to submit their will to another person, that person being an all-powerful, omnipotent, omnibenevolent being, supreme being, ruler. That's the issue when we have a personal God, that we have another will that's in competition with ours. And so with the volitional reasons, it can be, instead of make it make sense, it's make it go away. Make this whole thing about me submitting to another person go away. And so we can bring up tough questions to see if we can pretty much just stump this proposition of God's existence. And Frank Turek really answers it beautifully, but then he's very honest in his answer in that it's insufficient. Listen to what he says.
Well, since God can see the end from the beginning, he can see how sometimes allowing things to occur and let things run their course, he can actually bring good from. Now, we can't always see how God can bring good from these things, but God can. God can redeem it. It's an excellent question. The philosophical answer that I'm giving here isn't going to do anything for somebody that just experienced that, right? There's two answers to a question like this. One is the philosophical answer, and the other is the pastoral answer. I'm the philosopher. I'm not the pastor.
See, the answers to the problem of evil can be both a philosophical answer and a pastoral answer. If somebody's asking a question and say, hey, make this make sense, then yeah, philosophy is where we're going to go. We're going to talk about logic. We're going to talk about the divine attributes of who God is and how they're not in contradiction with what the Bible teaches. We're going to talk about logic, and we're going to talk about reason, and we're going to talk about things grounded in God's being. But those answers do not satisfy the hurt that people feel. And the question that the young man asks at the beginning, there's a lot of different presuppositions in it that I'm not going to get into here, but I wanted to take a stab at giving the pastoral side of such an answer, because everything that Frank Turek said is correct. It's absolutely correct. As human beings, we do not know the end from the beginning. Only God knows that. And so here we are on this quest for truth. Some of us in a quest for truth. Some of us in a quest to suppress what the truth is so that we can live according to our own wills. But for us who are on this quest for truth, we're trying to figure out who this right God is. The question is, how can I trust you? Why are you deserving of my worship? How do I know that you're good? He brings up a very good question. Is that if this God is sitting here watching this happen and he does nothing, but he can do it, then that means he's not all loving. If he wants to do something and he can't do it, that means he's not all powerful. And so if either of those are true, why does he deserve my worship? None of those are true. And as you'll see in that video, make sure you go watch the whole video. I'm not going to revisit that here, but I do want to give the pastoral response to someone who has experienced something as evil as rape or any form of evil that you still have scars over. When it comes down to the goodness of God and how we can know God is good, when you do a survey of the world religions, you can dive in the deep pockets of the crazy different types of religions. But if you just stick to the not very popular ones, it's just Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, but even go on the outskirts, you can go into New Age, you can go into Hinduism, you can go to Buddhism, and you do a survey of these things, you will never have a personal God that suffers for his creation in any of those. Now, I'm not saying that, so therefore, since Christianity has that, it's better. I'm saying that there's a reason that that's true, because we as human beings experience love because love is the essence of God's foundation. It's not some ethereal statement to say that God is love, but love is one foundational attribute of who God is. And as a result of that, we experience it. But what would an all-loving God do? Obviously, if you're familiar with the story of Christianity, he suffers for his creation, but that's not where it ends when it comes to the one true God who's all-powerful and all-loving. The answer that Frank Turek gave about morality and free agency, in order for us to be free creatures, then we have to be able to make our own choices. That's the only way love can exist. But unfortunately, the side effect would be evil, because people can make free choices, and with those choices, they can commit evil. And the world is completely corrupt because of it. It's broken because of it. The creation that this perfect God made has been destroyed by his creation. And not only does he wrap himself in flesh to die for that creation, what he did while he was wrapped in flesh was suffer with his creation. We're talking about the omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibenevolent, all-loving God, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He sat on his throne, and he left that throne to experience poverty, to experience hunger, homelessness, to experience death of a loved one, to experience being hated, being shamed, being neglected. It's having your friends turn your back on you, persecution, death, slander, so that now, while we continue to go through this world with these pains and these trials, and we turn to this perfect God, one other thing that contributes to his perfection is that he knows the human experience. That's beautiful. He's not a distant being that wound up something and just let it go. He knows the experience because he came and he suffered not just for his creation, but with them. So he knows what it's like, and he's the perfect counselor. When you get a chance, look at Hebrews 4, and it tells you how Jesus is the great high priest, and why those who hide their identities in him can walk to the throne with confidence. Also, go to John 11. Search for John 11 and look at the story of Jesus and his friend Lazarus, who died. He mourned. He knew what it was like to mourn. And not only does this God grieve, did he grieve as a human? He grieves still today. The question that this young man posed in the beginning has a faulty premise, because we all assume that this God will do nothing. And the reason Christians are still preaching today, the reason former womanizers are now in churches preaching today, the reason former felons, thieves, murderers, rapists are being transformed and still preaching today is because this God will do something. Those who hide their identity in him have nothing to fear. But those who are resting on their own abilities, thinking that you being a good person, doing good deeds, a bunch of things, that you can somehow work your way or think your way into the grace of God's presence, you're sadly mistaken. And our only path into a perfect, loving, harmonious relationship with this all-powerful creator is through Jesus Christ, the one who wrapped himself in flesh, that he would suffer both for and with his creation. So guys, take a look at those passages. Keep on the lookout for our videos. Darren and I, we're going to keep making videos, and we're going to touch on different things. I want to start getting into apologetics a little bit more and theology a bit more. But guys, check out our YouTube channel, Black and Blurred. Check out our Instagram. Look at our website, www.blackandblurred.com. Subscribe, follow, all the good things. Holler at us.